Going live now.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Houston Minority Supplier Development Business Opportunity Conference. We will be starting momentarily. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Houston Minority Supplier Development Business Opportunity Conference. We are excited this afternoon to bring to you our Transportation Business Opportunity Conference. And so we are excited to have all of you join us this afternoon. Please know that we want to take a second to have our safety moment.
Is now
as
joining.
we always do. And so our safety moment is we hope that when you are out and about, you are wearing masks and gloves if possible, that you are maintaining the social distance as you should, and we hope that you and your families are well and safe. So we have an exciting program this afternoon, and we are really geared up with our speakers. We want to present to you Ms. Constance Jones, who will introduce our transportation industry experts, and you will hear from Ms. Jones just now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our Business Opportunity Conference in Transportation. We have a wonderful lineup for you today, and it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce our distinguished guests. First, we will have Mr. Otis Johnson from Metro. Mr. Johnson is currently the director of the Office of Small Business for Metro. He works with small businesses, various organizations, and stakeholders in the Houston metropolitan area to support and build capacity in the small business community. One of the things I love about Mr. Johnson is that clearly you can see his passion for helping small businesses. He professes that all small business should have a PhD degree to be successful. In other words, you must be professional, treat everyone with respect, H, hungry, the passion and drive to overcome adversity, and D, discipline, the focus to stay the course. Mr. Otis Johnson will be one of our guest speakers today. Our second speaker we will bring is Gilda Ramirez. And Gilda Ramirez is the Senior Director for Small Business and Education Outreach from Port Houston. Gilda Ramirez directs the Small Business Development and Maritime Education for the Port of Houston. Since the inception of the Small Business Program in 2002, the Port Authority has awarded almost $500 million in contract awards, or about 39% of all eligible Port Authority contracts to local small businesses, and there are nearly 1,000 registered small businesses in the program. Ramirez also directs the Port Authority's Maritime Academy program, a public-private partnership designed to help fill the maritime employment pipeline with bright, well-trained young talents. That is Ms. Gilda Ramirez. Our third panelist will be Ms. Rona Forte. Rona joined United Airlines in October 2019 as a member of the Global Community Engagement Leadership Team to drive supply diversity programming as an integrated component for impacting global communities. From 2010 to 2018, Rona was the Director of Supply Diversity and D&I Education for Walgreens Boots Alliance. As an integral member of the Global Diversity Inclusion Team, her team was responsible for delivering $3.3 billion in diverse-owned and small business spend, and she also oversaw the implementation of diversity and inclusion training at Walgreens University. That is our third panelist. And rounding us out, we have Mr. Michael Bryant from the Texas Department of Transportation. Michael D. Bryant serves as Director of the Civil Rights Division at the Texas Department of Transportation. CIV promotes inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility within TxDOT internal operations and external programs. CIV has responsibility for programs related to the Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 504, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, Equal Employment Opportunity, Historically Underutilized Business, and Small Business Enterprises, and Title VI. That is our panel for today, and you will be in store for a lot of great information that they have to share. So to lead us, and the moderator for today's event is a lady that needs no introduction. Of course, you know her as the powerhouse of HMSDC and our fearless leader. I would like to introduce to you Ms. Ingrid Robinson, President of the Houston Minority Supply Development Council. Ingrid.
You're on mute, Ms. Robinson. You're on mute. Ms. Robinson, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I keep forgetting about the mute button. So thank you all for joining us today. And I know that you guys are going to enjoy these powerhouse presenters that Constance just introduced. So thank you for that warm introduction, Constance. So I want to start by level setting and having each of our panelists tell you a little bit about the type of things that their companies purchase, so that you'll have a better idea as this business opportunity conference goes along, the breadth of the things that are purchased by these large entities. So I'm going to start with Michael Bryant. And so Michael, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that TxDOT purchases?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I send greetings from our commissioners with the Texas Transportation Commissioners, Texas Transportation Commission, our Executive Director, James Bass, and personally from Austin, and hope everyone is staying healthy and safe during these new times that we're all experiencing. TxDOT purchases everything, to put it simply. While most people know us for the construction and maintenance of the Texas highway system, as an agency of almost 12,000 people, we purchase everything from simple pens, papers, and office supplies, ultimately to materials for the construction and maintenance of those road systems. We also are looking for professional service providers. We look for, we have over 2,000 buildings in our current facility plan, and we are going through upgrades and in some cases complete replacements of those buildings across the state. We also look for surveyors. So we do a little bit of everything, and we are always looking for more people to participate in our funding. While these times are certainly putting some strains on resources, right now TxDOT is moving full speed ahead, and we will certainly deal with financial issues as we move forward. But we are in a position right now to continue. You can look at our website and see various opportunities. So we look forward to talking with you the rest of the day. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Gilda, can you tell us a little bit about the port? Because I think some people will be surprised at the type of things that you purchase there as well.
Thank you, Ingrid. Hello, everyone. This is Gilda. I hope everyone is doing well. On behalf of the Port Authority and our Port Commission, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about opportunities at the port. We have had our small business program since 2002, and we're very proud of our numbers to date. We're at 37%. So we do maintain our 35% goal, and we do take that very seriously. We offer many opportunities for our small businesses, And right now, I'll go through a very short list just so you can get a breath of the type of work that we have out right now. Obviously, everyone in the city is looking for masks and gloves and all the things that we need for to deal with COVID-19. But beyond that, we're moving forward with our regular work. And so we have things like purchasing for trolley rail cars on our wharf cranes, purchasing 9 electric container yard cranes. Some of the things that we do are very specialized. So I'm not going to go through this entire list, but it is on our website. And we do also share it with our partners. And one of those partners is HMSDC, and they in turn share it with all of their members. But I can tell you that, like the gentleman before me, we pretty much purchase everything. We focus primarily on construction, engineering, professional services, goods, maintenance, and that could include anything that you would need to run an entity such as the port. And, you know, that's everything from office supplies to laying a yard, building a facility. So we're very inclusive in all of our outreach, and we make sure that the opportunities for small businesses are made aware. You know, we do make our small businesses aware of those opportunities. And so we do a little bit of everything, and we also do a lot of outreach to make sure that the community knows what opportunities are there.
Perfect. And Gilda, I think a little bit later we'll let you expand maybe a little bit, give us some insight into that disparity study. But Otis, can you tell us about what Metro purchases?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Once again, I too want to thank HMSDC and for inviting me to this illustrious panel. Metro obviously is no secret. We're in the transportation business. Unfortunately, a lot of times the community, especially our small business community, sometimes gets confused because they think, oh, transportation, we don't do buses, we don't do operations, a lot of things like that. But Metro has, as everyone has said before me, has a need for everything. When you look at construction, you know, your general services, professional services, which is your engineering, architectural, supplies, it really covers a lot of things. Now, you know, I kind of call a lot of our things low-hanging fruit, if you will. And what that simply means is that where we have high capacity for small business participation, there are a lot of opportunities. For example, this past fiscal year, we exceeded our 35% aspirational goal, and we achieved 51% in awards to small and disadvantaged businesses. So we're proud of that. But when you think about Metro, all the park and rides, think about what it takes to maintain that. We have a department called Facilities and Maintenance, and they are constantly putting out solicitations. Some of them are in the higher category, it could be 100,000+. But there's a lot of things that happen at the $50,000 and low and below type opportunities, everything from painting facilities, doing pest control. Just recently, we had a purchase order go out for, we hired a couple of small businesses to help disinfect our buses and our trains, you know, with the advent of COVID-19, so that every day, you know, our passengers and riders that have to get to where they need to get to know that they're entering, transportation with a clean environment. So there's really not much that we don't do. It's just that in transportation, there's not like every year you can predict we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. However, everyone by now is pretty much aware that Metro's main focus, outside of getting through this pandemic, is Metro Next. You know, it's a $7.5 billion project over a 20-year life cycle. And during that time, there's going to be over 100 contracts issued. So construction, design, engineering are going to be, you know, the engineering stuff on the front end, design on the back end, but there's just going to be a ton of ton of work. My biggest concern is, will we have enough small businesses that are registered to provide those services, given all this going on across all of the platforms that we're discussing today? But yes, Metro has always been a leader, and we're proud of that. So I look forward to providing more information as we go forward. Those of you who want to see what's happening with our solicitations can go to ridemetro.org. Look under procurement. You'll see a list of things that are currently out. Obviously, I won't go through that now, but I just want to make you aware that even during these times, there's still a heavy demand for the services that all of our small businesses can provide.
Thank you, Otis, so much. And so now we're going to hear from our private sector company represented on the panel in transportation, Ms. Rona Forte. Could you tell us a little bit about what types of things United purchases? And I know that you guys have had some big contracts and big projects at the airport here in Houston. So can you share a little bit about what type of things that you purchase?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you to the HMSDC staff for allowing us an opportunity to talk about United's purchasing path forward. So as you mentioned in the buyout, I've been with United for approximately 6 months. I think I made my anniversary today, in fact. And overarchingly, we what I've heard my colleagues mention is very similar to our operation. As you well know, based on our footprint in the Houston market for a myriad of years, we are a very complex organization that works in a cross-functional environment to service our customers. And so our purchasing spans from advertising all the way to MRO, to locksmith, legal services, laundry services, janitorial services. And to your point, Ingrid, we have recently done some work on the construction side with respect to the airports, and we continue to, look at what that looks like going forward with any remodeling efforts that we need to undertake, not just in the Houston area, but across our entire ecosystem. So the exhaustive list of about 66 different categories can be found just with a quick, simple Google search of our opportunities as posted on the United website. But just to go a little bit more granular for the audience that is participating today, we do aircraft interior parts, aircraft appearance supplies and disposables. As you all know, a lot of the focus right now in the COVID environment is on personal protective equipment. So there is an uptick in those service providers that are coming to us for an audience with our buying teams to see if they could actually supply some of those needs. And as we know, they will extend beyond where we are today as states start to reopen their economies. This will be, in terms of building consumer confidence, a continuous need probably for our foreseeable future, just because the confidence levels need to be built up for those people that either, are traveling for leisure purposes or for business need, but that, the accessibility to gloves and hand sanitizers and masks and just those things that consumers can have confidence when they're patroning our airline and systems to get back and forth are going to be a hefty need. So our focus has been primarily on that from an airport operations standpoint, PPE, but in the longer term, we also buy cargo services, computer, IT equipment, office supplies. We already touched on construction, aircraft cleaning, which again goes to that consumer confidence build and making sure we have the right chemicals that are being utilized in our airport, on our planes. I mentioned, I think, laundry services, security services, SkyCap services, and of course, transportation, whether it be limousine transportation or any other augmental services to move our flight attendants and our pilots from, the airport to resting space until their next scheduled assignment. Food and beverage, obviously, on the aircraft we purchase for consumer consumption, so that is another category. The other one and I'll call out, and again, this is all an exhaustive list can be found on our website. Let's see, what can I spell out? ground service equipment and fuel. Fuel is a big one, and obviously that's one that doesn't necessitate, as I've experienced in my days at Walgreens and prior to, a lot of access and opportunity to bring in smaller businesses. So we're really looking for help with our affiliate partners like HMSDC and others to identify those, opportunities where we can penetrate some access for minority-owned businesses in the fuel space. Uniforms is another area that we purchase and buy, as well as signage and printing and promotional items. So again, the exhaustive list is on our united.com site, but that's a high-level overview of what we procure.
Wow, that is a lot of stuff, which means there's a lot of opportunity. And one of the things that we've been talking with our MBEs about is looking at COVID in a different light, and that it's creating some opportunities in some areas as you change your business model. So we really appreciate you sharing that list with us. So here's the next round of questions for all of you. Since we're talking about COVID, has the size and scope of your projects changed pre-COVID versus post-COVID? Are they getting larger? Are they getting smaller and more targeted because of the changing in how you're doing business? Is there anything that you can share in terms of how you guys are going about approaching doing business? And I'll start back with Michael.
For TxDOT, we have not made adjustments based on COVID-19 concerns yet. Those things are always under review. At TxDOT, we have the Unified Transportation Program, which is a 10 to 20 year plan of projects. And as we move closer, there's a statewide transportation plan called the STIP that identifies projects and provides a little clear guidance for anyone to look at and see what projects have been funded and have the funding source lined up to move forward. Again, because of some of the implications and as a state agency, we will be impacted by the legislative session in 2021 that starts in January with budget concerns as the price of oil has dropped and what that means for the state as a whole, as well as there is money in the highway funds. It's the federal program that relies on the gasoline tax, and is, people have not driven as much as they would normally over the last 6 to 8 weeks. There is likely some reduction in funding there, in addition to other resources the federal government has directed for other programs. So for now, I think TxDOT's a great opportunity for businesses that are in position to readjust when there's been slowdowns in commercial construction. If you have the flexibility and you have crews that can do some flat work, as well as some of the opportunities we have, it's a great opportunity. And as TxDOT and HMSDC have discussed in the past about looking at ways for some of those who are involved in commercial construction to think about moving into the heavy highway space when appropriate. And so if there's a need for more work right now, TxDOT has the work, certainly in the Houston district, as well as Beaumont and some of the other surrounding districts. Everybody is probably aware of the North Houston Highway Improvement Project, NHIP, the 45 project, segment 3, is currently out for procurement, request for qualifications that I think will close later this year. And segment 3 deals with sort of the reconstruction and reformation of the highways that circulate around downtown Houston. So there's certainly work, and even if those plans adjust, I think right now, the last time I looked, there were probably $4 to $5 billion worth of work underway in the Houston district, and it's imperative that we have more small businesses helping to complete that work.
Perfect. And I think that that's great. We have talked about it many times, providing an opportunity for our MBEs to service multiple industries and how to transition from commercial construction there. So that's a great opportunity for them. So I'll ask the same thing for you, Gilda. At the port, I know that you guys had a big dredging project, and there's so much work going on there. Has the project, how you guys approach projects, changed pre-COVID versus post-COVID?
Thank you, Ingrid. Yes, we, for the most part, are moving forward business as usual. We did have a case where an employee did, or two employees contacted the virus, and they were not office workers. They were actually out on the docks. But nonetheless, I have to commend our port management, our leadership, and our commission. Immediately, we shut down, and within a day, we were back up and fully functional. We are working remotely, so that is really different for us, especially for those of us that are extroverts and used to dealing with people on a daily basis. But business is moving forward as usual, and we actually are moving forward with Project 11, which is the dredging project that you spoke of. And the biggest change has been the huge increase in expenditures for supplies and services. As I mentioned, we did close for a day, and we had to clean all of our facilities and disinfect them all, and that was done, over a weekend. And business was as usual. We still are moving forward with all of our projects. I know that TxDOT talked about their plan. We also have a 5-year, a 10-year, and a 20-year plan. We are moving forward with all of our projects. We have to, and I will share that one project in particular that we've been working on, which is a yard. We already have, a commitment to an outside third party. So we have to move forward and keep building and, just being ready for anything that we've already committed to, and that growth needs to happen. And as you can imagine, being in the supply chain, the port is an essential worker, an essential part of that supply chain. And our first line employees have to come to work. They don't have the option of staying home and working remotely. So I really want to commend them. So I would say that, yes, our business is moving forward as usual. We've actually had an increase in, things that we would not necessarily have purchased. And we've hired companies that we wouldn't have hired necessarily either for things like the disinfecting. And we're doing that on a weekly basis. So that expenditure has increased significantly. We are also taking temperature. And I know Metro is doing the same, not to steal your thunder, but, those are things that we weren't doing in the past and that we are doing now. And we are very focused. I know that Constance and I had a discussion yesterday, and we're actually spending lots of time on all different kinds of webinars and learning, whether it's Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Meeting. There's all different kinds of things that we are utilizing, and staff has really come together to make sure that we move forward on as usual and have the opportunity to serve our community.
Thank you so much, Gilda. And I'm just to follow up on that to quickly ask, there are some transportation or some security, extra security measures that you have to take in order to be a supplier to the port. Has any of that been relaxed since you've gone to, use these suppliers that you haven't typically used before?
Absolutely not. We have, safety is our priority, and we have to, continue to have the people that work for us clear certain backgrounds and have access. If you're talking about the TWIC card, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, if you no, we have not relaxed that at all, and I don't foresee us doing that. If anything, as I said, we're screening people at all of the gates. So if you have a temperature, you're not even allowed on our property. Again, because of the nature of our work and the security issues surrounding what we do, they have remained constant.
Thank you. So Otis, you guys are really efficient about getting out those projects, and we receive information from Metro all the time about upcoming procurement opportunities and pre-bids, and it doesn't seem like COVID has stopped you guys from putting out new business opportunities for MBEs. Has your business and how you guys are approaching the Metro Next or your existing projects any differently pre versus post COVID?
No, not at the moment. Again, if anything, like you said, things have really kind of escalated because being in the transportation business, we're a lot of our essential workers, need that transportation to get to their locations. So while our public ridership in general may have gone down, we're seeing that we still have to service those critical workers. So if anything, like I said, we've added more things, like I said, just extra things related to, protecting the buses and the people who ride those buses. So that's why we've seen an increase in things like janitorial services, an increase in actually hiring more drivers. So no, we haven't. As far as Metro Next goes, we're still on target. Right now, the program management consulting solicitation is under review, and that's going to obviously take some time before it's awarded. We're hoping that by the time Metro Next gets into really first gear, the crisis hopefully will be behind us, or at least more manageable. But no, we, again, just as Hilda has said, as Gilda has said, sorry, is that you have to take extra measures from security, you name it. So, yeah, I can't think of anything noticeable that has impacted the types of,
So let me ask this, the follow-up, Otis, on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish, Otis.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, it's okay.
Well, I was just going to ask as a follow-up to that, are you seeing any, because you're buying different things, are there opportunities for MBEs in that 50,000 and under category where for some of our smaller MBEs that don't require to go through a full, fledged RFP process, are you seeing increased opportunities for MBEs in some of those smaller purchases?
Absolutely. And I referenced it slightly a little before, is that because of the need to keep our buses and other services sanitized, vehicles, is that last time, I think it was about a couple of weeks ago, we had an emergency PO request go out, and we only targeted it to our small business community. And it didn't matter whether they were Metro certified or not. We were only interested in getting small businesses in our community, regardless, again, of their certification. And because of our relationships, we were able to secure about 4 contracts to help provide extra services on our buses, again, on sanitation. So, yes, there's been an increase, and we suspect that's going to go up because we have so many facilities that need that type of attention. And, we're prioritized, of course, based on, some of the facilities have very little activity because, people aren't coming into work through a lot of our remote locations. So, yes, we've definitely seen a need for that. So only thing I caution our small businesses is when it hits and we send it out, you do not have time to think. Okay. In other words, have your quotes ready for things that you do, and you do well. Have it ready, and just be able to reply to that procurement officer as quickly as possible, because they don't last long. They get taken quickly, those solicitations.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Otis. And so, Rona, same thing. I know that, you know, your industry has been hit extremely hard with international travel down, domestic travel down, trying to figure out how you're going to service passengers in sort of a new environment with the social distancing and so forth. In terms of the size and types of opportunities, how has that changed for United as you rethink your business?
It has changed drastically. As you alluded to, Ingrid, we've got, you know, a pretty substantial amount of our aircraft now docked and parked, if you would, and 10% are in the air. And so when you think about 100%, you know, volume driver for consumer travel, for corporate business travel, as you alluded to, international travel, only 10% of that is happening now. So we are pleased to say that we have had a lot of that on the wise of moving first responders from coast to coast to assist in those critical need areas that have been substantially impacted by the coronavirus. We continue to do that, but until we get to a place where we have, again, that consumer confidence that I alluded to earlier in my response, reestablished and restored, we suspect that there will be a lesser volume of travelers moving back and forth. That stated, if you only have 10% of aircraft moving about, your needs for catering, your needs for snacks on board, your needs for facility maintenance, your needs for aircraft cleaning, it diminishes naturally. Your needs for doing certain things that you would when you had full-blown aircraft, you know, moving back and forth. So pre-COVID, there were a lot of projects that were in progress, you know, in a high scale. Some 10 million, some, you know, at a lower, you know, 1 million even for our minority-owned business community. But once that national stay-in-home or stay-in-place, shelter-in-place order was enacted, it just really diminished a lot of that travel. And so the trickle-down effect is a lot of those needs that would have been innate to operation of our business are no longer in place. So post-COVID, again, I alluded to earlier in my comment, it's been focused on PPE needs for our current pilots and flight attendants that are still moving aircraft, and those smaller sets of employees that are working to ensure that those aircraft and the mobility thereof are in place. But definitely a significant drop, to your point, pre-COVID to now. There is going to be, as you've read in the news, this is not anything that hasn't probably been observed in your own fact-finding exercises, but there is definitely going to be a longer runway, no pun intended, for our restoration of getting additional travelers back into the sect and moving, back and forth to do their business essentials or their personal travel. But that is going to take some time. I think what we're now predicating a lot of that on is vaccination for this, unprecedented virus that no one could have forecasted. I was really happy to see, as I stay close to this, that there's a drug, I think, called Resavir, and I'm not going to go into detail, that has been, just as of today, kind of spotlighted as a potential cure. But the point being, it's going to be a while, for, consumers to say, or passengers to say, okay, I'm comfortable with going back. And as that starts to increase, then the need for those different expenditures that we had pre-COVID will start to take more form, and we'll need more of those essentials. So as an industry, we are, kind of paying attention, as everyone is, on how this impacts us. I heard from our Vice President of Global Community Engagement, Sharon Grant, on a call today, a leadership call, that, she's been with the airline industry for 26 years. And so she's seen a lot of ebbs and flows in this industry to my 6 months. I haven't seen that. I could talk to you about retail, but I can't talk to you about airline industry. But what she, had mentioned to me, which I think was quite comforting, is that, as you look at this, there's a resiliency, if you would, within our industry, but it's definitely, sometimes can be a bumpy, turbulent ride. And her mention was that we are usually, as an airline industry, the first to be impacted, and kind of our recovery period has a longer tail than other industries. And so just knowing that, I think as an MBE community, as a partner affiliate, is really going to be helpful for us as we kind of plow our way through this. The good news is we've seen similar trauma, if you would, in the space with respect to H1N1, Ebola, 9/11. My daughter gets on me when I say 9/11, 9/11. We've seen, trauma, and we're still standing. So, our philosophy is here yet is another one, and we just need to kind of stay the plow.
Perfect. Well, I know I've been asking some questions, but I will now turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Ms. Constance Jones, who has been monitoring some of the questions from the audience. So Constance, I will turn the stage over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. And we have been receiving a lot of questions. So panelists, I'm going to talk a little bit to let you exhale and inhale a few times, because I have a long list of questions for you. So I'm actually going to start this first question off to you, Otis. There were several questions that came in as you and Ms. Robinson was discussing the projects of Metro Next. And so I think it's more of a clarification question. So what they're looking for is, are there different opportunities and different services that Metro is buying as a result of the Metro Next project than what Metro typically buys?
I would say it doesn't span beyond what we typically buy. What it's doing is really the concentration of the services. In other words, when you look at a $7.5 billion project, there are going to be over 100 contracts that are going to be issued in association with that. And a lot of it is design and construction. And those are areas that I call our bread and butter when it comes to small business participation. So nothing unique. It's just more quantity. And one of the strategies that I like that we're doing to help small businesses, that one of our last largest projects was the light rail expansion. We're not going to have like one centralized construction team, for example. That's going to be decentralized, which means now there are going to be so many contract opportunities that our small businesses can take advantage of, because it won't be under the decision of a particular, prime contractor. So no, I don't see anything new, but it's definitely an increase in quantity, if that helps. Okay.
And this next question is still for you. So it must have been someone who was on our first lead conversations, because they had a question as it related to something that Commissioner Ellis said. Commissioner Ellis was on a couple last week when we held our first lead conversations, and he talked about the county's disparity study. And so he mentioned Metro and he mentioned the port. So do you have any updates that you would like to share regarding Metro's disparity study?
At this point, there's no evidence, or I shouldn't say evidence, there's no update that really would have any impact on our community as far as preparation just yet. Because of COVID-19, we just got word, matter of fact, today, that our prime contractor heading up the study is going to have to extend it another 6 months, because we were about to go into the phase where we actually start to interview a lot of our small business community. Therefore, because of this, they can't do it. There were going to be kickoff meetings and things of that nature. So the plan has is being revised because of COVID-19. So the last phase that was done was the data analysis, which is all kind of internal, making sure that we get them all the documents, all of our procurement activity, over the past 4 years. So now that we're going to go out and canvass the community. So that's where we are. But like I said, it's kind of been delayed because of COVID-19.
And that's absolutely fair. Gilda, the same question goes to you. So, of course, Commissioner Ellis mentioned the port as well. Are there any updates you would like to share with the listeners regarding that?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. As you all know, we embarked on the commitment to have a disparity study done at the Port of Houston Authority, and we had our kickoff meeting October 22nd of 2019. And through October and I would say through March, the contractor has been very busy and has hired local small business contractors to help with this study as well. So we've had data collection and assessment. They met with our primary staff, which included procurement, legal, even our construction management, engineering departments, and other high users for small business participation. So they met internally and they reviewed our policy and procedures and are looking at the policy review and program analysis now. They also conducted a case law review, and they are looking and collecting quantitative and anecdotal information. So we we have also provided them with a list of our organizations and partners. And currently, the 2 subcontractors have conducted anecdotal interviews. There were 30 conducted, and there's also an online survey. And we are looking to move forward. We also were planning to have public hearings, and what we have agreed to do with the consultant is that we are going to move forward, and we're going to have and they assured us, we did ask, and it was of concern to us, they did share with us that they have done virtual hearings, and they just did one in Austin, and they had really high participation. So we are committing to move forward through virtual hearings, and if you go to our website, there is information on those 2 upcoming hearings. And if we, for any reason, feel that there was not enough information or that people did not get an opportunity, our intent, regardless, is to come back and hold a final meeting, share thoughts, share the information that was already provided, and allow people to share their thoughts with us and, well, with the consultant, not with us, but with the consultant. So right now, the type of work that has not begun is the private sector analysis, conducting relevant market analysis and the utilization analysis. So lots of analysis, availability analysis, and then the disparity analysis. And then there still needs to be a statistical significant testing, complete findings and recommendations, preliminary draft of the study, review and revise the final draft, and then executive summary and presentation to PHA governance. Our contractor has told us, our vendor has told us that we were way ahead of the game because we did get an early start. They're confident that we will be on target, and if anything should change, we will make everyone aware via the website. And of course, we hope to have some in-person meetings as soon as we can. But our intent is to move forward and have a preliminary draft of the analysis for our commission and for the public, we'll receive it in August, and our intent is to move forward with the recommendations, once approved, of course, by our Port Commission. Are there any questions?
Well, that's great. That's great information to know, Gilda and Otis, and we're glad both studies are still progressing and moving forward. So this next set of questions are going to go to each panelist. We're going to start with Mr. Michael Bryant from TxDOT. So HMSDC has a professional services group, and we have determined that there are 13 different areas of professional services. Not that you're going to remember all 13 that I'm going to go through, but I just want to make sure you kind of know what we consider professional services. Accounting, advertising and marketing, architectural, IT, consulting, educational services, engineering, financial services, insurance, legal, medical, and real estate. So I was just wondering, for each panelist, we're asking this same question for each panelist. Do you procure professional services, one of those 13 that we mentioned, and do you see any of those opportunities on the horizon within your organization? We'll start with you first, Michael.
The answer is a resounding yes. Similar to what Otis described earlier, that with all of the construction work, there comes a great amount of design work that is built into that. And so professional services, we follow the state statute that defines professional services in terms of what we contract for. Mm-hmm. But when we say professional services at TxDOT, we are often talking about architecture, engineering, surveying, and some of those areas. It includes legal services and probably a few others that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. While we don't always consider, I think you even said educational services, it's really how we would procure something such as, when we did our disparity study, and it sounded like some people may also be using Colette Holt and Associates in what was recently discussed. But when we did those procurements, we also did them under really a qualifications base, which is how professional services get purchased by TxDOT. So we're really looking for people with experience, and there are certainly issues that we're working to improve. But for us, and especially with minority and women-owned businesses, small businesses in particular, the opportunities, I think, are, I won't call them easier, but I think there's a general standard that's looked at for us when we're purchasing professional services. Often you need to have an engineer, and so everybody's kind of going over the same hurdles. It's a little tougher for us on the construction side sometimes when we get into discussions with large contractors. But especially for us, and just a quick note about the certifications that we use, when we are purchasing with state funds, TxDOT is focused on the historically underutilized business program that's overseen by the Comptroller's Office. And then on our federal projects, we're looking for disadvantaged business enterprises, or DBEs, who are certified. But those goals for us are also higher than our construction projects. And we've even worked with our specific group that procures professional services related to our construction projects, have identified various areas that we've seen a significant number of minority and women-owned businesses, and have raised those goals significantly to encourage more of those firms to ultimately bid as the prime and not simply looking to be a sub. And so one of the areas that we're really focused on is really getting people to really have that broad mentality about their longevity, which is, there may be opportunities to be a sub that help cover some of the quiet times, but as much as we can, we want to encourage people to be primes when they've, gotten themselves stable and have the resources to do it, to look at being a prime, whenever they can, because it allows you a little more control of the situation. And I think, the opportunity for growth is is significant, especially within TxDOT. So professional service providers are something we're always looking for, whether you're in Houston or El Paso. I used to describe it as, you could be on a beach in the Caribbean and you could often do the same work that you're doing as long as you get to those project sites if necessary or to various meetings. And so for professional service providers with TxDOT, it's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Michael. Next, Rona.
So with the United, we do have definitely opportunities on the professional services side of the house. A lot of them, most recently to your Ingrid's comment with respect to the recent facilities projects that we've completed, do include minority-owned businesses in the architectural and engineering space that are in Houston and actually certified by the state of Texas. In addition to that, we have some professional services that are currently in that area for advertising services, as well as for environmental consulting services. That's on a tier 1 basis as we kind of, pull that thread through and look at our prime vendors that are in the accounting space and other professional services, legal spaces. We have started to incite conversations around more of capacity building where there isn't a direct opportunity to work as a second-tier provider for our accounting and legal needs, but we have held our tier 1 providers in that space to an accountability level to put development programming in for our small businesses that align to building out their infrastructure so they can eventually, make way into working as a prime vendor for directly to United. So recently my conversation to that end was with PricewaterhouseCoopers in the local Chicagoland area. But pre-COVID, our team's intent was to actually be in the Houston and other markets to, kind of get some of a feel for what those professional services organizations were in that geographic area so that we can start to have furtherance of discussion. Now, all that coupled with in the next 18, the next several months until we work our way out of COVID, we're not actively procuring professional services, but in, pre-COVID, we definitely were working on the professional services side, mostly because it is definitely a keen observation area, not just in this market, but in our local market. And so we've been working with a lot of those key stakeholders and advocates that have minority-owned professional services businesses to try to make sure that they have, basically an understanding of what we buy. Secondarily, if we buy from someone else, who that is, and then thirdly, how they are working to ensure that we have that inclusive practice around buying professional services.
Okay, that's great information. And that's also helpful for the professional services firms that are listening, that to be ready for when we post-COVID. So when we do start to open back the economy, that people are actually ready to take advantage of those opportunities. The same question to you, Otis, how is does Metro procure professional services? And if so, are there any right now that are available?
Yes, we do procure a lot of professional services. In addition to design and the engineering services, as Michael discussed, we also include project management. We've issued a number of solicitations in that arena. With Metro Next, in the next month or two, there are probably going to be an additional 6 or 7 solicitations that we're going to present to the board to go out for, and all of them are going to be related to, again, this for Metro Next. So one of the key ones that, again, just got closed was the program management consultant, but while it's closed and under review, that particular organization, 90% of the services they're going to have to provide are going to be for project management. We set a 35% goal on that solicitation. Therefore, you can bet they're going to be looking for a lot of local support to help oversee the multitude of contracts that are going to be coming out from Metro. So there are things that, again, it's just going to go up. We got a PMIS, Project Management Information System, solicitation that's currently on the street. So if you go to the website, you'll see some professional services solicitations there as well. But again, there are 7 to 10 that are coming in the next couple of months. I do want to mention, it's not quite on topic, but I do want to mention so I don't forget, is that Metro's small business program just got recently modified. And what triggered it for me was Mike mentioned the whole idea of trying to encourage our small businesses to come on as prime. So one of the changes that we made to the program was, in the past, if you were a prime, you could not also be a subcontractor on a solicitation. I'm sure you're all well aware of that. The change that we made is that to help encourage small businesses to put their toe in the water, if you will, instead, we're saying if you're a small business, you can bid as a prime, but you can also bid as a sub on another solicitation. So that way it doesn't take away the opportunity completely. It's not a choice, a have-to choice of whether I'd come in as a prime or to come in as a sub, but having that experience of coming in as a prime and then hopefully asking, if they don't win, asking for a debriefing where we can say, okay, here's some things that you could do differently to maybe improve your chances next time. So that's one of the things that we're excited about in support of Metro Next and all of our other solicitations. But again, we will see an increase in solicitations for engineering professional services.
Great, thank you. And I think it was timely. So I don't think you were too off basis with sharing that information, because I think that's important for our businesses to be able to hear, and that encouragement to be able to offer themselves as a prime and as a subcontractor. Gilda, your comments regarding professional services?
Yes, thank you so much. So yes, we are heavily engaged in professional services. We procure services for engineering, architecture, advertising, marketing, financial services, insurance, medical, surveying, photography, legal services, and educational services, training and development, long-range planning and forecasting, and environmental as well, just to name a few. I'm sure that is not all inclusive, but we are as we mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of opportunities for small business, and most of these are put out either on an RFP or an RFQ. And, we do encourage our small businesses to submit their proposals or qualifications when we do have these opportunities available.
Okay, great, thank you. And so these same cast of characters, we got another question from the audience as it relates to a specific service. So one of the attendees have an event management production firm. Are there any opportunities for event production services such as virtual conferences, meetings, or events that you are looking to engage MBEs? So we'll start with you, Gilda.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So are there any opportunities for event production services for virtual conferences, meetings, and or events that you need planned?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think that there may be opportunities once we get back from working remotely. And also that is something that I can ask our IT department and our chief for our IT group to see if that is something that they are planning. We didn't, foresee this unprecedented pandemic, and so we would have not thought that we would be working remotely. So I'm not really sure. I think it's dependent upon what happens with the virus, and I think that with the virus, we have been able to do things remotely. So I think that will open additional opportunities in the future. I think people are going to be more accepting now and will be more accepting of planning virtual events versus in-person events. So I would imagine that we will have more opportunities.
Thank you. Otis?
Yes, I would agree with you, Gilda, on that same note, is that we had already started looking at that because in anticipation of Metro Next, we've already been working with our media group and our public relations group, talking about making them aware of some small businesses that provide that type of service, because we believe that the demand and the amount of coverage that this project is going to need, that we're not going to be able to do all of that with our in-house staff. Nothing tangible has come out of it as far as, a specific solicitation, but I'm optimistic in believing that it's going to require some additional support. And as it relates to COVID-19, I believe there's going to be a new norm when it comes to how we communicate our message. And I can see that driving the demand even higher. One of the things that we've been talking about on the small business side, for example, we have classes that we offer, SBUs, Small Business Universities. And we're thinking now, like, hey, you know what, maybe we can record some of those and post them, or do a synopsis so that we can communicate to our audience, hey, this is a class you might be interested in taking, but instead of just the standard script, we can have something a little bit more robust. So those are the areas that we're looking at for those types of services. And, we're going to depend heavily on our partners to help find small businesses that do that.
Okay, thank you. Rona?
So just to piggyback on the prior comment, we do have a keen focus on facilitated learning styles. However, from an event perspective, we have a team within our communications group, as well as resources within the different vertical areas or business units or divisions that have resources that deploy events. I often reflect on what I heard when I first joined United in my orientation, and it is that most people think of us as an airport transportation organization, which we are, but we're more of an IT organization with a fleet of airplanes. And so as it relates to technology, to facilitate this transition, our IT organization was very, very quick in responding and deploying us to the work at home environment via our various platforms, be it Teams or Cisco meetings and the like. And so I say that to say, as we look at facilitated learning, as we look at event deployment, virtual meetings like we're having here, we have technology in place to facilitate that. So, looking at outside event planners to kind of coordinate and organize that is not a current need, but I do think that it is something that, longer term, may be something that can be explored on a second tier basis to augment and support some of the efforts that our internal division leaders are already undertaking.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes, I think for TxDOT, we do coordinate a lot of large events, and some of those are with other state agency partners, such as the Texas Transportation Institute out of Texas A&M. And so there are some that are locked in. We also have used for some of our different divisions, host conferences, or as members of other organizations, we've used outside vendors. And so there's always some opportunities. And for those, typically, it will be using our state funds. And so, like all state agencies, those get posted on, used to be the Electronic State Business Daily, or ESBD website that the comptroller maintains. And I think now it's called Texas Smart Buy. And so you can find a lot of those type of opportunities, if they're out there, would be posted there. As Otis mentioned, and I think the other panelists mentioned, the new opportunity is really responding whatever the new normal looks like. And so whether there are things that all of our various entities may do in-house, certainly from a training perspective, but I think, at some point there's going to be a point where people want to get to talk to people face to face, the typical outreach events or large scale expos and events where normally we've got those on our calendar years in advance because we know it's going to happen. There's going to be, whether it's a reduction in the number of people that want to attend, or there's a way to deliver those same or similar services with your company to help organizations reach a large audience. And I think how companies adapt to that and how agencies adapt will direct the course of those kind of events. And this goes just for state agencies, it goes for, private sector, educational institutions and various associations. But there's always opportunity. And I think, those that are creative and find those ways, and having that discussion, even if you don't see something now, if you have a skill set that you think a state agency can benefit, reach out to us at TxDOT, reach out to some other organizations and have the conversation, because it may not be available today, but where we are 6 months from now, where we are a year from now, whatever those changes are, you can be in the forefront if you start to figure out ways to provide that service to organizations.
Cool. Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you, panelists, for sharing that information. Rona, we have one more question that is directed to you as it relates to airline and travel. So we are seeing that there are some airlines that are actually providing their passengers with masks. Do you know if this is something that United is intending on doing, or what has been the thought process for United in that front?
Yes, I do know that we're doing that. Effective May 1st, we will have not only our flight attendants and our pilots with masks, but also be providing them for our passengers that board our aircraft. And so we have already been in very vibrant discussions around this for the past couple of months, and have received a plethora of MBEs that provide this service that we have immediately routed to our procurement organization for that consideration. So I don't know who the inquirer was, but if they would like to approach us with respect to their ability to secure masks, because again, this is going to have a long tail on it in terms of our needs and the volume, I would encourage them to, again, visit the website that I mentioned earlier on in my response, so that they can connect with us and we could get their information and materials to the proper parties within our procurement organization for consideration. But the answer to that is a resounding yes, because we understood even prior to the announcement in the public media that was going to be an element of rebuilding consumer confidence.
So Rona, is it just the United website, or can you give that particular website again?
Absolutely. Well, I can give the website, but another way, I'll also give the email address that goes directly to a member of my team. He monitors that email on a regular basis to make sure that it cascades out. So the website is www.united.com. And then from there, you can navigate yourself to supplier diversity, which may take you to our global community engagement site. But either way, you can just search, supplier diversity to get that insight. You can also send us an email directly to supplier diversity altogether, no period, no space, no underscore, supplier diversity @united.com.
Thank you, Rona. I'm going to turn it over now back to Ingrid, and you can still type in your questions in the chat, and we'll come back later on in order to ask the panelists the questions. Ingrid?
You're on mute, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Constance. I am going to ask you guys a couple questions that I think will provide some insight to our audience today. And so I wanted to ask, I'm going to start with Otis, and then I'm going to transition to Gilda. So 2 questions are a 2-parter for you, Otis. So what does Metro Small Business Program do to protect MBEs who have contract opportunities to ensure they get paid timely? I'm sure you know that this is important to MBEs today as ever before, as everybody is under cash crunch. And so they can look at this as an opportunity to grow their businesses, but they also need to make sure that they're able to get paid timely. And with remote working, has that hampered or done anything in terms of the payment terms for MBEs?
We've always had a very aggressive payment term plan for contracts that have small business participation. For example, we have a prompt payment policy that states that all primes must pay their subcontractors within 5 business days of receipt of funds from Metro. And we monitor that. It's in our program. It's hardwired. So that failure to do that can actually affect someone's existing contract. They can be terminated for not adhering to that policy. So it's not just, as they say, it's not just lip service. The other things that we do is that our normal payment cycle for a prime is 30 days, a 30-day term. So any contract that has small business participation on it, whether it has a goal or not, if there's a small business on that contract, the process is in half. So we work to get the payment out in 15 days because we know how important it is for that cash flow to reach that that lower tier subcontractor. Okay, so those are some of the things that we do to make sure that they're paid. We also track to make sure that, from a compliance standpoint, that our primes are invoicing timely. We've seen cases where the prime, they have more reserves financially, and they're not pressed.
Right.
So they won't always submit their invoices timely. Their contract says they have to submit an invoice at a minimum monthly. Okay. So again, we're constantly monitoring that.
So let me ask this. I know that from a small business standpoint, part 2 of the question focuses on the primes. Metro has always had a strong engagement with your pre-bid conferences to bring small businesses together with your primes to talk about those opportunities and connect them together. How are you managing that process now with the remote working environment?
One of the things that we're doing is, obviously, we're still having pre-bids and pre-proposal conferences. What we're doing is all of the attendees on the teleconference are required to submit their information, their business card, to the contract administrator. We then work within 48 hours, we work to get that list out. And the reason is obvious, so that we can ensure that small businesses that are planning on participating as a sub can begin to connect with some of the primes that were on that particular call. So while we can't do the face-to-face, we haven't stopped sending out that critical information. We also, prior to a solicitation, if it's one where we have a lot of capacity, we'll do a targeted outreach. So we'll let people know ahead of time this is coming, so that before anything hits the street, we can, if someone says, hey, can I find out who the primes are that are in this particular industry or whatever, we can help them navigate through the database, through keyword searches, etc., so that they can find out where they can start making connections and building relationships prior to the pre-bid. Because a lot of times we often hear that, by time of a pre-bid, the team may already be solidified, and that's not untrue, but it's not 100% the case. So I tell people, work their opportunity before the bid hits the street. You know what you do as a service. You know or can find out who those primes that do this service. Get ahead of the game and start building those relationships prior to.
So let me ask this question, Otis, to piggyback on that, one more for you, because you shared in one of our meetings some interesting information that I didn't know. So where could an MBE find out about the solicitation opportunities before they hit the street? So I know you talked about some committee meetings and some things that were kind of unique that I had thought about before, but can you share where do they go to find out about these opportunities before the RFP is actually on the street?
Because of our procurement process, any solicitation over $100,000, for example, has to go to the board. As a result, there are committee meetings that are public, and they're on the website. If you go to ridemetro.org and you look under the information for the committee meetings, and basically the same place you go find the monthly board meetings. And because of the environment, we're streaming those. We're streaming those events right now. So a committee meeting will tell you, for example, what is being presented as what's coming down the pike for a solicitation. So that's one way that you can get ahead of that. The other is when you go to the website under procurement, there's also an anticipated procurement list, meaning that's what's going to come up in the next month or two. All right. So again, you can get that advance notice. That also works in conjunction with our targeted outreach. For example, when we were trying to do the urban design solicitation, before it hit the street, we went out, found companies that do it, sent them the information, sent them the draft scope ahead of time, and we sent it to our small businesses as well. So again, they say, hey, this is coming, get ready. If this is what you do, now's an opportunity. So those are the primary ways that we try to keep our community informed.
Thank you, Otis. So Gilda, I have a couple of questions for you as well. So we'd like to know the benefits of registering
Otis Johnson
with the Port Small Business
is
Program.
now exiting.
We have multiple benefits. We offer our small businesses, in addition to receiving any information on upcoming procurement opportunities, we also offer Port University to small businesses, and we also encourage primes to attend. We have other training and education opportunities, including partnering with the University of Houston Small Business Development Center downtown on Fannin. We offer classes and training with them as well. We work with OSHA and offer safety training, and we have networking meetings. We also host quarterly forums here, and we do rotate those through the community so that we can have our small businesses network with each other. And we have found that through Port University, some of the successes are that people do work together and submit proposals together and actually get contracts, because in their cohorts they get to know one another and form successful partnerships. So it has been a really good partnership through the Small Business University. We also host, we try to host this once a year. Last year we had some difficulties, but we have held a large appreciation event for our small businesses, and it is an entire evening put on entirely by small businesses. And so usually we have 300 to 400 people attend that event, and it is put on, as I said, entirely by small businesses. So any outreach that is done with a small business, any printing, any design work on an invitation, and then all of the caterers are small business. We have small business florists and decorations, and it's really a spectacular evening to acknowledge the importance of small business to our local economy.
Thank you. And then I just had a quick question for you in terms of, I know last year you got a new Port Commissioner Chairman, Mr. Rick Campo, who has been engaged in supplier diversity and small business development. I know that this is an area that that he's taken an interest in. Are there any insights that you could share in terms of how the new strategic direction for the port has created opportunities or will create more opportunities?
Well, I will share with you that Commissioner Campo came on in January, and by March, we had an approval to move forward. So he started in January of 19. By March, we had approval to move forward on the disparity study. He has been extremely supportive of our small business program. He has stressed the importance of the program and the fact that small businesses drive the local economy as well as the national economy. He is very supportive, and I think that the other commissioners are extremely supportive of the program as well. We have, as I mentioned, maintained our 35% small business goal from year to date for our program. There has been no discussion whatsoever about, changing that particular goal. If anything, we are encouraged and we are asked if, for example, there isn't a small business goal on a particular project before it goes, through the entire process to Port Commission meetings. During the briefings, we've received multiple questions from our leadership saying, why is there not a small business goal on this particular job? Or, why is it this amount? So I think that
is now joining.
The support is there, and Chairman Campo fully supports the program and has done things to make sure that we continue to provide opportunities to small businesses.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And so, Rona, I have, I know that you wanted to switch up a little bit and you had a question that you wanted to ask for our MBEs. So for those MBEs participating, please be ready to type your response in the chat box. So Rona's question back to you guys are, as MBEs, how will you look at strategic partnerships and alliances on the other side of COVID-19? So while you guys type in your responses to that, I'm going to ask you a question, Rona. And so hopefully we'll have some responses that we're able to share with you by the time you finish answering this question. So can you tell me what makes a great MBE transportation partner for companies like United?
I'm sorry. So with for United, a great MBE transportation partner really, has, the collaborative forum where, from a customer service standpoint, when there, because things may arise when there's a, change in business model, when there's a change in, service provision, that MBE is proactive in making sure that the category manager and their business line leaders have enough information before it kind of, gets to a point where, it has to be remediated. So my core example is I've, spent a lot of time getting to know all of our MBE constituents across the system. And one of the things that I've been very refreshed in hearing is that they have a constant collaborative conversation with their, their business partner, be it on the divisional side or with their procurement individual. So that's one thing, just having that, that strong relationship beyond the contract. And even if it's not initiated necessarily by United, that MBE partner is initiating that dialogue. So that's one thing that I find key to a successful partnership. The other piece of that, which is actually an extension of that first point, is to make sure that not only the business partnership and the procurement partnership is in place, but also the partnership with the supplier diversity advocate that is, constantly trying to ensure that they've identified opportunities to grow that MBE firm, and or if there's any, alignments or restructuring that needs to occur, that we have that ability to have insight into the transactional nature of that relationship, so we can be advocates that have enough information to act on behalf of the MBE. So I think those are the core things. I think the basic things around, making sure your financial house is in order, your infrastructure is built, you're aligning and partnering, which prompted my post-COVID question. I think those are, essential as well. But I think the two key things is that communication line, not just beyond, on the business side and the procurement side, but just making sure that supplier diversity is a part of that discussion as well.
Thanks, Rona. So while we wait and give them a chance to think about that, I'm going to quickly move to Mr. Bryant. So I know that that you have personally put a lot of interest in expanding the number of MBEs who get their DBE certification so that they can participate on those projects. But are there opportunities for development or mentorship that MBEs and DBEs can get through TxDOT or through TxDOT's prime suppliers?
Yes, there are a variety of avenues. We, as TxDOT, receive funds from the Federal Highway Administration to provide supportive services to DBEs. Some of those funds require that we work with firms who are already certified as a DBE, but we have generally gotten approval from FHWA to work with firms that are interested in becoming certified with the DBE. We don't provide a typical mentor protege program through the DBE side of what we do. There is a mentor protege program within the hub program for firms that do certain work. And again, primarily our DBE program is focused on some of our professional services contracting and our construction programs. A lot of our other funding is state funded, so building construction is typically run through the hub side. And we also have an SBE program, but that goes off into the weeds a little bit. But it's also connected to our maintenance and construction operations on the state-funded side. But typically, we have resources. We've worked with A.O. Phillips in the past through our Alliance program. That contract will be ending soon, and we will be looking at how we provide those services and, for better or for worse, taking advantage of this COVID-19 sort of break and having to travel as much, to really kind of make sure that the services that we provide are useful. We are also redesigning our needs assessment that originally was built for the Alliance program. We will be hopefully getting that out in the month of May, June at the latest, to make sure that we, as we develop programming, are addressing what businesses have identified as their needs. So when we can group some of those needs together and we can provide sort of similar to today, a virtual environment on specific topics, but also making sure that we're addressing individual needs on a one-on-one basis. And some people may have met Carlton Cooper from our office, and there are folks within my team in the Civil Rights Division, but we also have individuals within our Houston district who can also provide information that's going to be relevant to your business and sometimes more helpful than what we can do because of some of those things changing on a day-by-day basis, to make sure you have the most up-to-date information that's going to help you to decide if this is the right procurement for you. Is there an opportunity that may be coming in 2 months that may be a better fit for your company? And also making sure people understand our various pre-qualification requirements, our administrative qualifications that are required for our professional services contracts, and other items that are going to benefit small businesses.
So I'm going to ask you, Mike, if you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share with participants since you're already on and Mike is hot.
I guess the main closing comment is just reach out to us. I know there's always difficulty sometimes in feeling connected, and I use connected because our mission statement for the agency was recently changed to connecting you with Texas. So it's more important than ever to feel connected, and we want to be available. Others describe teleworking. Our agency for all office employees have been teleworking since March 16th. We are currently scheduled to continue teleworking through May 18th, and so at that point it will be 2 full months. The agency hasn't fallen apart, and so I'm hopeful that for a variety of reasons that some of our staff will continue to telework. Some may go back to an office, but we are here, we're available. We are focused on enabling economic opportunity for everyone, and we want to make sure that people have the right resources. Hopefully, because I am unable to see the screen due to IT issues, I hope everyone who's participating today will have my information in addition to sort of general TxDOT information, but please feel free to reach out to me directly. I like to say that I'm a conduit to get you connected to the right people. I can answer a lot of questions, but there are going to be specific questions that there will be people who can better answer those. And I want to make sure that you have those opportunities to talk to those people. So please reach out to us. Don't be afraid. And don't think sometimes that if you don't hear from us in a certain amount of time that we're ignoring you or don't have an answer for you. Once you put it on us, it's up to us to respond to you at that point. And please feel free anytime. The great thing about working virtually is that a lot of people are on at different times of day or night. And so hopefully that helps us to address your questions and concerns. So just please reach out to us.
Thank you. So before we go on, Constance, I want to make sure that we don't forget Rona's question. So do we have any responses to Rona's question in terms of MBEs? How are they approaching strategic partnerships and alliances?
Well, yes, we do, Ingrid. We have one of our newly certified MBEs, TNR Accounting and Management Consulting, who responded, and they have a lot to share. So they are looking at things very differently in this climate. So a few of the comments that they have made as their firm is aligning with engineering firms and other accounting firms to leverage subcontracting opportunity for projects. They have been very present and diligent about attending pre-proposal meetings to ensure that they are connecting with potential primes. And lastly, they are expanding their service offerings to be able to include SBA loan application assistance. So this firm is not only pivoting and doing things now, they are also looking at what can they do to continue being viable after COVID-19. So we are excited about that. Another one of our firms says that they're aligning their business with certified factoring companies in order to fulfill large contracts in for COVID-19 PPE environment. So it looks like that they are adapting and adjusting as ways that they're seeing fit that is being most fruitful for small businesses and minority-owned firms during this time.
I think that's awesome. And I think that it goes back to saying what we always talk about with our MBEs, that they're agile, that they're resilient, that they're going to adapt and find ways in which they can continue to operate and grow their businesses. So I'm excited to hear those stories. So keep those coming. So we may have to continue that conversation outside of this particular forum. But I'm going to go back to closing remarks now, and I'm going to ask Gilda, can you tell us if you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share?
Yes, I would just like to say again, thank you to the Houston Minority Supplier Diversity Council. Thank you, Ingrid and Constance, for all your hard work and everything that you do for the community. The port is, as I said, business as usual, and we have lots of opportunities for small businesses. We do send out a flyer with opportunities very similar to the one that Metro sends. We send it to all our partners and also to our registered small businesses so that they can be aware of opportunities that are on our website. And we also have upcoming construction projects as well, more long-term. So if we can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to call us. Most of you, or all of you, probably know Pedro and Pedro. They handle our outreach and our mentoring. We have Akila Hicks, who is also very active with the Minority Supplier Diversity Council, and Natasha Ainsworth serves as a member of the certification committee. So we understand and appreciate the importance of your organization and are glad to call you all partners. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Gilda. Otis, anything that you'd like to say?
Yes, I too want to thank HMSDC and all the leadership there to put this together, especially during this time. It sounds like from some of the feedback the Constance just read is that it sounds like a number of our small businesses already have my PhD.
All right.
And I encourage that to continue. Now is a good time to reach out to Metro and set up one-on-ones with Sharonda and Alex. If you don't have that, I know that can be provided to you. But they're available still for covering one-on-ones. Basically, it's a chance for you to have a session where you can get more granular in what you do and how to maneuver through Metro. The key is the more you know about Metro, the easier our job is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple. It's easier for us. All right. So, but we need to spend the time doing that. I'm surprised that every day I expect to have a calendar full of one-on-ones, but it's one of the easiest things to access in terms of trying to work with Metro is those one-on-ones. But I might have one-on-one, not me personally always, but there might be only a couple a week, which surprises me. Okay. The other thing that we offer in those one-on-ones is a business assessment. We'll have you fill out a questionnaire and go through it, and then we can tell you, okay, are you ready to prime? Based on this, no. Are you ready to be a sub? Yes, but should I be here or there? So it helps you better understand how you fit, or even if you fit at all. Because we're not here just to have you do work for Metro. We want you to be successful as a small business because it's a small community and it's a revolving door. So if you do something with the port, if something comes back to Metro, I know you're going to be more prepared because of your experience with the port and TxDOT, et cetera. So we're more interested in you being a stronger competitor for these opportunities, regardless of where they're coming from. So stay the course and please stay safe and stay well.
And Rona, last but certainly not least, are there any closing comments that you'd like to share?
I think my colleagues on the panel have covered everything that I would say. I would just leave one final remark to the MBEs and all of us that are on this line. Just that, in this time is, the ultimate measure of a man or a leader is not where they stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. And that's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. So that is what inspires me, keeps my, my attention and my hope, alive, if you will. And I think that is what all of us need to think about as we, come through COVID and work together to try to build a better infrastructure on the other side of this. So that would be my closing remark. I appreciate the comments that came in terms of my question with respect to how MBEs are thinking about the other side of COVID. I think those are the right ways to be thinking about how to pivot. So I do appreciate that. So thanks again for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Thank you so much. So before we turn this virtual conference back over to Ms. Marchette Turner, I just want to share, make sure that I captured some of the things that came to me and that I'd like to leave you with, is from the port perspective. Gilda talked about how important partnering is, and take advantage of their small business university. That could be a critical component to learning more about how how the port operates, and how to partner and get teamed with other businesses to form those strategic alliances. And perhaps with all this additional maintenance work, if you provide chemicals for cleaning, or you have a cleaning company, that perhaps this is an opportunity for you to partner with another MBE to be able to get some of this additional work, or with a prime. So take advantage of their small business university. From a Metro standpoint with Otis, I made note to anticipate procurement opportunities. Make sure that you're checking that list for those things that are coming, so that you're prepared when they get there, and you're not trying to scramble to form a team or figure out how you're going to respond once it hits the street, because at that point, it might be a little bit too late and you're not giving it your best thoughts and work. So visit rodmetro.org and go to those committees and see what's talking about, even what's going to be hitting that anticipated procurement opportunities list, so that there you can gain some insight into the thought process of where Metro's leaders are going and what they want to do. From Rona at United, I made note that we need to send an email to supplierdiversity@united.com if you're interested in providing PPE equipment, that clearly there's going to be a need for a lot. And that means a lot of different suppliers for a long period of time. And she talks about that longer tail, that this is not something, as they build confidence in travel and in the industry, that there's going to be opportunities for MBEs to do that. So again, I would say look at HMSDC for our Strategic Teaming Alliance Committee for information on how to form strategic alliances, and to make sure that you register with United if you have pivoted to provide some sort of PPE equipment, so that you can get on the list and potentially be considered for opportunities there. And finally, with Mike with TxDOT, I made note that there are a lot of opportunities that people don't think about necessarily with TxDOT, and there's a lot in professional services. 2/3 of HMSDC's members are professional service firms, and so I think that this is an opportunity for them to look at ways in which they could partner, similar to what TNR was talking about, and finding different ways in order to engage those primes. So I was thinking, with her accounting services, there are a lot of requirements that some of these small businesses and primes have to meet in terms of how they report timing of their employees and so forth. And so there's a need for all sorts of professional services at TxDOT. And so that's an opportunity. And that the opportunities are abound, whether you're SBE, a DBE, a hub, a MBE. There are specific programs and opportunities for those suppliers with TxDOT. So don't underestimate the breadth of services, and that we all need to think about their businesses as MBEs. You mentioned going into the legislative session in 2021. Which I hadn't given a lot of thought of, but this is important as our economy is stalled. There are going to be some challenges with some of budgetary issues. And so being adaptable and thinking now about how that's going to impact agencies and those projects that are coming, and how you can add value to those projects and to those agencies is important to start thinking about today and not in 2021. So I thank you all for your participation and for sharing such great insight with us. And so with that, I will turn the program back over to Ms. Marchette Turner, Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson, and thank each of you for participating. You can always tell when you've worked with someone for a period of time. Both Ingrid and I have written down quite a few of the same notes. And so I have 2 pages of notes, and as Ms. Robinson was going over hers, I was thinking, oh my goodness, we have taken the exact same notes. But that's because you all gave great information. Our MBEs who are listening and have been very attentive, and I know they have because they've been texting and emailing me. So when I turned my computer off, that was why. But again, thank you all so much, and we truly do appreciate your time on today. We don't take it for granted. We value the partnership. Rona, it was wonderful to hear from you. You know, we go a ways back, so thank you so much for participating, and thank all of you. This was very good information. We want you to be mindful that we have a CPO Power Panel coming up on May 18th. And I certainly encourage you to visit our website at www.hmsdc.org to get more information on that CPO Power Panel. You don't want to miss this. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We certainly have updated COVID-19 information on our website that we want you to go to our website and look at as well. And just for what's happening with HMSDC, we are moving in a different direction, but certainly we are moving towards opening doors for our MBEs and making collaborations with our corporate partners. And so we are thankful to each and every one of you again for being on this call. Thank you so much for giving us your area expertise. And that concludes our Transportation Business Opportunity Conference. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcia.
You're welcome.
Be safe. Okay.
Have a
Thank
safe
you.
day.
You too. All righty. Bye-bye.
Rolling forward.